Hello friends and enemies, welcome to another movie review here on YouTube. Nerdpod Generations, here to give you the knowledge that you crave and need before making decisions on what to do with your precious time. My name is Alfred Jutsum. I am very happy to be your host today. And yeah, we're just in my nerd sanctum sanctorum of sorts. We're not in the lair today, but maybe another time when I'm not doing laundry. We're here to talk about Death on the Nile, the new Kenneth Branagh film based on the Agatha Christie novel, which is also the sequel to Murder on the Orient Express. I'm an old man at heart, and this is a movie that makes my old man heart happy. And I think that you should all hear about it. This is a movie that stars Kenneth Branagh, Armie Hammer, Gal Gadot, Annette Bening, Tom Bateman, Letitia Wright, and Russell Brand, who's turning in a muted and not flamboyant or crazy performance. I'm so used to Get Him to the Greek Russell Brand that I was shocked to see Russell Brand playing it close to his chest. This is a very nice, easygoing movie. This is a just mellow, I just want to burn a few hours, I got some time, I don't need anything too high stakes or anything that's gonna be too over the top or too heady. This is just nice, easy flow, great matinee movie. Great matinee movie. Alright, so this is a movie about Here we go. I can't even say it, folks. Hercule Poirot. If I were on the boat with this guy, I would just call him Mr. Detective. Because Lord knows, I am going to mispronounce his name to his face like 6 or 7 times. And I would so much rather be looked down upon for calling him Mr. Detective than looked down upon because I cannot, for the life of me, pronounce his Belgish name. So this stars Hercule Poirot, played by Kenneth Branagh, who is fresh off of his adventure on the Murder on the Orient Express last movie. But not too fresh. We'll get to that in a second. And he has kind of, once again, been brought into a situation where a case develops around him. And suddenly people who he's been socializing with and just having a good time with are dropping dead. And people are looking around for answers and they look to him. So as you do when you have a world's greatest detective at your disposal. This is an interesting movie in a few ways. It is one of those movies that sets up a lot of boxes. So there's a lot of red herrings and other things set in here because of course you can't have it be directly obvious who the murderer is because that's no fun. So there's a lot of like whodunit isms here. So you have everybody gets accused of murder at least once, and they joke about that, which I give them credit for. That was a good line. It's a movie of interviews of different people. You get to meet a bunch of people at the very beginning, and then as the movie goes on, you get to understand who each of those people are more and more until you get to the point where each and every one of them has a reason to murder the person who is now dead. I will say, this movie did take a little bit of time getting out of the station. I know that this one takes place on a boat, not a train, but it took let's say that it took a little bit of time getting out of dry dock then. This one took a little burn time. I think it was a solid 40 minutes before the murder actually occurs, and before that it's not boring, but there is a lot of just rich people talk. There's a lot of rich people talking about rich people problems. And one of the characters is a communist and she's turned over her entire fortune to the Communist Party. Meanwhile, you have heiresses left and right and their servants, and you have working people who have built their lives and, fought for everything that they have. To some degree, you should be able to find a character that you compel with at some point. But I will say there is a lot of rich people talk at the very start of this movie. That's not bad, but if you're looking for something a little bit more engaging, you might find yourself a little bored for the first 40 minutes. Those 40 minutes, you're really relying on Kenneth Branagh's performance as Poirot and what kind of dynamism and charisma he brings for that role, which is great, by the way. Kenneth Branagh can chew scenery and can kind of phone it in. This I would not call either of those. He's very reserved and calm. And then when things go wrong, that's when that frantism comes out. And he's a little bit more assertive and a little less genial. But he's so genial and kind in the first section of the movie. That's what really carries you along, is that you kind of just like hanging out with Poirot. He's just kind of this goofy guy. He has his little isms that he has to deal with. I mean, like, that obviously is something that I'm going to connect with deeply, so I like it for that reason. But also just, he's this guy that you can really appreciate because he's not a Sherlock Holmes style jerk, right? He's incredibly intelligent, incredibly affable, incredibly smart, and you like hanging out with him. So, you know, it's a win-win on that front. You get the mystery, but you don't have to deal with the douchebaggery. And there's not really any douchebaggery from Poirot. He's not really the douchebag type. That being said, he does betray his friends on more than one occasion here. You can really see him thinking. Throughout the entire movie, you can really understand how he is processing information. And you see it on his face, and in his mannerisms, and in his eyes. Holy crap, this guy does some serious acting with his eyes in this movie, and it is impressive. Very impressive. Because there are a lot of quiet moments where Poirot will just be overcome with emotion. And being the, you know, stalwart type, he doesn't necessarily show emotion deeply in the sense of, like, he's not weeping, but he starts emotionally weeping through his face and through his eyes without any tears. And it's very well done. Kenneth Branagh is one of my favorite directors. I will admit that. I do think that his version of Thor was the best version of Thor up into Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. We'll see what happens with Thor Love and Thunder. But I think that he established a lot of really good style and look for the Thor movie. And it really became what we as fans were kind of wondering if it was going to be. You know, you hire this guy who's great at doing Shakespeare to do Thor, so you make it Shakespearean. And I liked it. I liked it for that reason. I liked the style and feel and majesty of the first Thor movie, and you get a lot of that kind of stuff here. They have these windows that are, I don't know if they're crystal or what, but they reflect light in such a way so that it breaks the image and just kind of like smears it, so that you have one image repeated over and over again. And he uses this to show people's faces of how they are different on the inside than the story that they're telling on the outside, especially in moments of anger and betrayal. He goes back to this style where it changes and shows you kind of from a auteurist viewpoint that these people can't be trusted and that they're double-faced in many ways. So if we're talking about just on auteurism, it's very well done. It's a low-key auteurist film where he is really doing a lot of stuff to bring you as an audience member in and show you the story more than tell it to you. But he's still doing a great job of telling you the story. The movie itself moves along at a pretty good clip once it gets going. It is, like I said, a little slow at the beginning. I don't hold it against it for that. I think if we were comparing it to something like The Bubble, which also had a very slow beginning, that was more like pulling teeth. This is more like, okay, I guess we're just going to hang out in the sauna for a little bit. We're not going to go anywhere. We're just going to sit and chill, I guess, is what the plan is. Hang out in the hot tub. Because this is going nowhere fast, but that's okay. It doesn't need to go anywhere. We're meeting characters, we're learning things about people, and we're finding out that Poirot means more than what he says. Alright, there's more to him than what we see on the front. Even his closest friends end up being in situations that are more than a little compromised by his presence. It is a very good movie, it is a very entertaining movie, it is a very gripping movie. I would not say that this is an action-heavy film. This is definitely a slow burn. This is not one of those things where you're going to get a fight scene every 20 minutes. This is something that, you know, I joke when I say you can enjoy it with your grandparents, but you can easily enjoy this with your grandparents. This is definitely up their alley, which isn't to say that young people won't like it or won't get anything out of it. I think that it's a great starter film for studying, right? You look at it as if you want to study the ideas and symbols in film and filmmaking, if you want to study how a director can bring to life more than one idea or turn an idea or switch an idea so that you kind of believe something and then you're turned at the last second to be like, wait, what? It does that very well. It is a director's movie in that regard where he is doing a lot of stuff. Kenneth Branagh is doing a lot of stuff to keep your attention here as an audience member. I think Gal Gadot is pretty good here. She's a little stilted, which is unfortunately, you know, kind of a recurring thing with Gal Gadot, is that she is just kind of this stilted, I don't want to say janky, but janky. Her performances are a little janky. They have edges to them and hard offs. And it's not bad, but it is definitely one of those things where you're watching it and you're just like, oh, that was an interesting choice. Armie Hammer's the exact same thing in this movie. You are watching Armie Hammer and you're just trying to understand why people are fawning over him. He's just kind of a blech, nothing character, and he's portrayed that way to us as an audience. When we first meet him, the introduction of him as a character is kind of like this blech character. He's playing it pretty straight, doesn't give a lot of depth to his performance. He's a little boring, which isn't bad. He's surrounded by a lot of other people that are doing some heavy lifting. You have a lot of great character actors doing a lot of solid work here. Annette Bening does a great job as the mother of Tom Bateman Book, the friend of Poirot from the last movie. You have Dawn French, you have Jennifer Saunders, like I said, Letitia Wright, another Marvelite coming in, doing a great job as Rosalie. Emma McKay plays Jackie, who is another one of the leads. She's the romantic rival to Gal Gadot. She's stalking her ex, Armie Hammer, and his new girlfriend, Gal Gadot. And she plays it in this way that's very innocent, and especially at an inciting incident that will go unnamed, she plays it very well. That was one of those things where I was watching it and I totally believed the performance that she was giving. This person who has made a mistake, has gone too far, and finally realizes that they've gone too far. I would say out of the three of them, Gal Gadot, Armie Hammer, and Emma McKay, I would say she's probably the best out of the three of them in terms of the performance that she hands in. I wouldn't say that Armie Hammer and Gal Gadot are bad, they're just flat. They're very flat. It's too easy to say that they're bad here. I think that they're just kind of blah. They're very vanilla. They're very one note. Whereas all these other characters surrounding them are more interesting and dynamic and have backstories and characterizations and things that you want to know more about. Even someone like Rose Leslie, but she was a much more interesting character as Gal Gadot's maid than Gal Gadot. And that's probably not a good thing considering she had nothing to do in the entire movie. She is scolded for not bringing something and she has to go back and bag the bags. And at the same time, she's giving this great performance of this person who is trapped in this life where she is, she has been betrayed by the person she works for and is trapped by them. She has to wait on Gal Gadot hand and foot and do everything that she says, and apparently it's because they're friends, even though it doesn't really seem that way. So she is doing a great job here. Letitia Wright's doing a great job here. Once again, Russell Brand turns in a very stoic, reserved performance, and he's actually really good. Like, forgetting Sarah Marshall good, which is just like, what? I didn't think you had one of those in you, but okay. He does a very good job here. Overall, it's a very entertaining and charismatic film. Again, the beginning is a little slow, but once it gets going, once they're on that boat and things start moving along, there are a few red herrings. At one point, there's a sandstorm, and you're like, oh, that's going to be a problem. It's not a problem. I'm going to tell you straight up because we were sitting here thinking, oh, it's going to be like this huge third act thing. No, the sandstorm is just a nothing thing. They set that up and then it ends up being nothing. There's a few things like that where they set up something and then it ends up being nothing. And they set up something and it ends up being nothing. And it's not bad at all, but it is definitely like, oh, I thought that was gonna be something. It's a whodunit, and it's a more classical whodunit than something like Knives Out. I would say if you liked Murder on the Orient Express, I would say this is at the same level. The cast isn't quite as good, but I think that they still pull through and give admirable and entertaining performances. The rest of the cast is just stacked with character actors who really give it their all and who are deeply entertaining and personable. So you really care about all of them. Is it a good movie? I'd call it good. I would call it good. I would give this a solid B+, so that's in the 6.5, 7.5 range. I'll give it a 7. We'll give it a clean 7. All right, 7 out of 10. Doesn't need to go in your Pantheon? No. Can you find it on streaming and enjoy it? Yes. Is it gonna make you hurt your head because you hate it so much? No. Is it going to make you feel like you have adrenaline racing through your veins like Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction? No. Is it going to entertain you and be a clean, easy, solid film that's beautiful to watch and which brings you in and engrosses you in the story? Yes, it will do that. So that's my review of Death on the Nile. Currently it's available on HBO Max and other platforms, I'm sure. If you want to check it out, I would highly advise it. If you like Murder on the Orient Express, it is a very good follow-up to that. Although, at the end of Murder on the Orient Express, they set up this movie. Poirot gets to a train station, gets off the murdered Orient Express, and is immediately flagged by a guy who's like, "You have business in Cairo!" And it's supposed to be like, oh, they're doing Death on the Nile. The beginning of this movie sets up with him returning from that excursion, which I don't like. I think you shouldn't have had that line in the last movie, because this is not that case. This is not the case from the end of Murder on the Orient Express. It just also so happens to take place in Egypt, but otherwise it is in no way related to that case. This comes afterwards. So that was a weird red herring that I did not care for. But what are we here to say except that there's good, there's bad, and there's a lot of middle. And in this case, the middle is pretty good, so we're going to give it over to the good half and say that this is a pretty good movie. So that's your review for Death on the Nile from me, Alfred Jutsum. Check out NerdPod Generations here on YouTube, as well as on our regular platform. We're coming up on our big 50th episode, which is going to be fucking great. We're going to have a Let's Play. It's going to be Spider-Man. I'm going to be playing the Webhead in my beautiful, lovely New York City. Oh, I can't wait. Friends and enemies, you're going to have to tune in for that. And until then, and until next time, we'll see you later. Have a great night, and see you again, friends and enemies.